Alrighty guys, we have the privilege today of having Lachlan from Moog Australia here with us. And of course, we have the brand new Moog Muse, the 8-voice polyphonic analog synthesizer it's the fourth iteration of polyphonic synths.
Yes, fourth ever polyphonic instrument Moog have created. We had the Poly Moog originally, and then the Memory Moog, and of course the Moog 1, which was their sort of flagship polyphonic synthesizer beast. And yeah, this is Muse, the fourth ever polyphonic instrument.
And first of all, how many years was this in development for? Because I've heard rumors that it was the worst kept secret.
Yes, all the leaks were true. This has been in development for around 5 years, and you might have seen some of the leaks over the recent months.
Definitely.
But yeah, they've been working on this a long time, and you can sort of see it, the results of that.
Yeah, I mean, first impressions, it's way lighter than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Yeah.
Obviously, your standard Moog, it's built like a tank, it's heavy.
Yeah.
Not a bad thing, but yeah, this was way lighter than I thought, which was amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely designed for the player.
Yep.
It's definitely, it can be a studio piece, but they wanted people to be able to take a Moog instrument and perform with it live, you know?
Definitely.
If you imagine the Moog 1, which was probably about another third deep, even wider.
About 4 times the weight.
Just imagine trying to take that on stage. Like, it would just be crazy, right?
Yeah.
So this is about giving you a true polyphonic Moog instrument with that like classic Moog sound, but being able to take it on stage and just perform and not have to worry about menu diving and all that kind of stuff. So that's why you also see a lot of knob per function.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's very tactile and
Yeah.
I mean, the screen,
Yeah.
we're about to find out.
No, of course, yeah. It's got channel aftertouch on the keyboard for expressive playing. We've got sliders as well, which is really handy for dynamic performances. And everything's really clearly laid out and spaced well on the front panel. I feel like you can see each module clearly. You're not fumbling around trying to find everything. It's really tactile and performance based.
Yeah, and I guess on that, let's go into the first feature, because there is so much functionality across it. Can you tell us a bit about the hold and maybe the chord function? Because I think that plays in well with how many different things there are and how you can kind of get to it all at once if you needed to.
Sure, definitely. So for instance, we've got this patch here. I'll just create a bit of a shorter release. So if I chuck the arpeggiator on, if I want to actually hold that and do some patching and sound design, I can press the hold button here on the left, play my chord, and now I'm free to actually...
And I might just add, there's no sustain pedal here at all. It's purely the hold button.
Correct. Now I could use a sustain pedal because it does actually have control inputs on the back, but that's just a really easy way of capturing something, whether it's the arpeggiator or a hold chord. So I can actually take the arpeggiator off, have hold on, and it will hold those notes for me. So I can actually play around with, and then find something I like, and then continue on playing.
Amazing. Yeah. And this is by Timbre. Can you explain what that means to everyone?
Sure thing, yeah. So by Timbre, there are actually 2 independent synthesizers in Muse. So that means we've actually got 2 different synthesizers to share between the 8 voices. Amazing. So if you take this patch, for instance, we've got Timbre A, and this is our voice control section here, so we can split and stack the voices. We can detune the voices relative to the 2 timbres. Mm-hmm. So for instance, you can split the voices evenly, so you'd have 4 voices on Timbre A, 4 voices on Timbre B.
And is it always split evenly?
No. So for instance, if you've got a bass sound in Timbre A, and you've got that in the left half of the keyboard, and you're pairing that with more of a pad, so like, you know, bass and pad, you could have just 2 voices for a thick bass sound on your left, and then have 6 voices for 6-note chords on your right.
Yeah, right.
So you can actually tailor it to how you want to perform, because, you know, if you're playing chords, you want to have more polyphony on the upper register. So so for instance, this is this is Timbre A. If I turn down Timbre A, this is Timbre B. So they're not too different, but actually perhaps I can show you an actual split. So we'll go to the splits presets, and you can kind of see how quickly it is to. So here we go. And you can change the split point too. So.
And is there a fast way of mixing in the voices in terms of level to each other?
Yes. So if you hold Timbre A, if you hold both, you can adjust the parameters together for both timbres.
Cool.
Or you can hold Timbre A, adjust Timbre B, and adjust them. So you can dynamically control the parameters for each timbre from your voice control section.
Because obviously there's only left, right, out on this. There's no sub outs, is there?
No sub outs, but that's because it's a truly analog signal path.
Yep.
So we're going from two classic Moog ladder filters into analog VCAs and true analog stereo VCAs too. So yeah, it's a true analog. There's no sub outs or anything.
Well, I guess that's coming from a live background myself. Having that functionality to do it at the same time or split it is great. I mean, if they didn't build in the double kind of functionality, that would have been a little bit ski with. But
no,
that's great.
It's definitely all about performance because the sequencer is also independent of the patch. Mm-hmm. So you can actually tell the sequencer to send steps to different timbres.
Cool.
So it's like, if you think about it, they're really independent as much as possible so that you have as much control over the timbres.
Definitely.
One of my favorite features is the stereo panning capabilities and the diffusion delay. So the stereo panning capabilities means we can actually spread the 8 voices evenly throughout the stereo field and then modulate them. So we get really wide stereo sounds. So if you take that patch I was playing at the start, 1 second. I mean, it's already like super lush just playing these.
I wish you could feel the low end warmth that's coming out of this. It's crazy.
Exactly, yeah. So what I can do is over here we've got the level of the VCA for this timbre. We can obviously pan it left or right, or we can actually spread the pan so that we can actually distribute the voices across the stereo field. So at 12 noon, they're spread evenly through the stereo field. All the way to the right, they're all the way left. So 4 voices in the left, 4 voices in the right.
So hard pan essentially.
Yeah. So if I to truly actually get a sense of it, we're actually going to modulate it using the modulation oscillator. So just quickly, this oscillator can be both a modulation oscillator in terms of LFOs and FM and all that kind of stuff, but you can actually also use it as a third audio rate oscillator. So you actually have 3 sound oscillators to use. So if we actually go, so we've got it panned evenly, we're going to turn on this pan modulation destination to the VCA, put on a slow sine wave, and now. And so now I'm going to increase the rate of that modulation. But I think it's real subtle. And then if we introduce a bit of vibrato with the pitch.
And then what happens? Can you narrow the stereo image while you do it so it kind of goes even more?
Yeah, definitely. So let's go. I reckon this effect would be definitely worth listening to on headphones. Because what we're actually doing, we're kind of creating like an almost binaural psychoacoustic effect.
Fake 5.1.
Fake 5.1. And we've kind of created like an almost like ambient drone now. And now with the hold function, I'm just going to start playing some chords. Engage some of the aftertouch to open up the filters. So yeah, I could take that a step further and even program the aftertouch to modulate the frequency of the modulation oscillator. So as I engage the aftertouch, we could increase the modulation of the pan spread. So as you push down the keys, it starts to spin in stereo more quickly.
Well, that actually brings me to my next point. Is it assignable buttons or something where you can map macros to different functions?
Yeah. So it's got a modulation matrix here, and we have 16 modulation slots per timbre.
Yep.
So actually 32. So we actually have 32 modulation patches. So basically, you can assign almost any source to almost any destination on here via the modulation matrix or via these quick assign buttons like this. So it's a really easy modulation matrix to get your head around. There's no real sort of like steep learning curve or anything like that. No.
Yep.
But a lot of them have sort of like, like for instance, this pan one, that's like a hot modulation destination. You can see all the actual modulation destinations built in already. Mm-hmm. So the ones that you need immediate access to usually have its own button.
Yeah, like the obvious ones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Amazing. Another feature.
The diffusion delay is probably one of the core things about Muse. This is the only effects module on the synthesizer, and it's the only non-analog sound module. It is basically an emulation of 80s and 90s digital delay racks, and it's in stereo as well. So you can sort of create like huge smears and echoes and ping pong delays using this stereo diffusion delay. That's how we got on this other patch, and I keep going back to this patch, but that tail end is all created through the diffusion delay. If we actually listen to the wet mix.
So the decay we're hearing is actually the delay?
Yeah, this is a completely wet mix. So if I actually pull up an initial patch, I mean, even listening to the oscillators on their own, it's like so thick, you know? So if we chuck that onto Timbre, basic delay in stereo. The two delays are actually independent of each other.
Is that feedback you're playing with, or is that?
I'm playing with the two timings of the two delays because it's stereo. I can but what I can do in order to create those more character and schmear, it's got this character knob, which is basically a combination of a high pass and a low pass filter. See how it applies a low pass filter? And that's how we get some of those. If I can link it to the clock as well. So if we take some of the stuff we did earlier, if we actually start to create some modulated stereo panning with the arpeggiator and the diffusion delay, we can get these crazy, like almost polyrhythmic arpeggiation because we're getting pan stereo field, stereo diffusion delay, and a really crazy arpeggiator. So if I just you should be able to hear that in stereo.
Yeah. It's subtle, but
Yeah. There we go. Hear that?
Yeah. It's almost got it's super three-dimensional and kind of like layered as well. Yeah, super immersive. And are those filters independent to each timbre as well? Or are they...
Yep, you've got 2 filters per timbre. Remember, there's 2 independent synthesizers in this. And you can also, these filters are also independent. You can link them together and do a whole bunch of crazy stuff with it. Yeah.
Amazing. Can you show us the filters? Because I know the Moog filters are...
Sure, yeah, definitely.
When I see a Moog, I just go straight for filter. So.
Yeah, that's what I do as well, man. Definitely. So if we take this initial patch again. I mean, that's just like... Yeah. And then what we can do is we can actually introduce clipping in the mixer, because this isn't a classic Moog synthesizer where the mixer has soft clipping and saturation inbuilt. It actually introduces it via another circuit. And the resonance actually changes character with that. That's with 2 oscillators. And so then if we chuck that in unison, oof. Yeah, I mean, you just saw what we did. Like, sorry if that clipped in the audio.
Oh man, we got what we got. That sounded massive though.
And that, you know, like that didn't take us too long to build that up either, right?
Yeah, so
like,
that was from an initial patch, and then
yeah, just a bit of filtering, chucked it in unison mode. I mean, that's really introduced the second oscillator, and that is on Timbre A. On Timbre B, we still have our initial patch.
Yeah, right.
So we could, in theory, create a super like 8-voice mono beast, because we're using all 8 voices, but we can actually chuck this in unison as well. So let's stack that. And then so let's check out the arpeggiator on. So then I could, record that arpeggiator into our sequencer, do live parameter recording where I actually, record the filter sweeps into the sequencer, and yeah, I've got like an acid techno bassline.
Yeah, so it really is a live performance machine.
Yeah.
Everything you've done so far ticks that. On live performance, I might just get you to show everyone. I noticed how fast the patches load.
Yeah.
Which again in live performance, well, I mean, is necessary. So do you want to just blast through and show us how fast a patch loads?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, definitely. So we got banks. I can click my first bank, go to the first one, select. Go patch, second one. Another cool thing, you can actually see all the voices being engaged on the programmer. So 2 voices.
And it gives you a number readout as well.
classic lead sound.
Well, I think you touched on gesture recording before, lightly.
Gesture recording is part of the sequencer. It's a bit hard to explain. It's kind of like, so basically you've recorded in your sequence, but you want to play a step differently, right, to how you played it.
And whether is that in terms of velocity or filters?
Exactly how you engage with the keyboard. So you can basically gesturally play in how you want that step to be performed in a step. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. The sequencer is actually quite powerful because it's not just a 64-step sequencer. You can actually introduce like chance and probability, so that you can actually have almost like a generative sequencer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So almost like Euclidean. It's not quite Euclidean, is it?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't have anything to do with Euclidean rhythms. But what you can do is, like, if we, for instance, record in sequencer. Let's record. So we've got our sequence going. So what we can do is we can go into the step menu, and then we can go here, and we can go into, we've got our information per step. We can see the sequence running. We can go into a probability, and we can actually change the chance that per step a random note will be generated. So obviously these are generating random notes, but we can actually tell that, okay, well that sounds, not exactly what I want. So let's go to the sequence settings and change the scale of the sequence to, what was I playing in? Some sort of F sharp. Let's go F sharp, a natural minor, F sharp.
So you could just perform straight off the menu if you wanted to. You don't even
Pretty much. Yeah, exactly. I mean, maybe a better way to demonstrate that would be, let's reset the sequence. So if we actually play this sequence here, this is one of the preloaded sequences. So if I go to step, probability, all steps.
Like an octave note? Oh, yeah.
So if I actually change the scale to match that of the sequence, we would start to have a generative sequence based off those steps.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much for coming in. If there's one thing that you want to leave us with?
I would say this is definitely worth playing. You really have to play it in order to get a feel for what this sounds like. You can watch as many videos like this as you'd like, and everyone could explain it in as much detail, but until you actually sit down and play it and hear that true analog signal path and those filters, that classic Moog sound that we all love, you really don't get a sense for the instrument. I really highly suggest coming in store and trying it. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, we'll have a demo up. Come and visit us. Thanks, Lachlan, again. It's been super eye-opening, and I think I'm going to have to get one.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.